Once again, welcome everyone to my channel. So today I'm going to elaborate. I'm going to talk about one of the common and popular questions, which is tell me about yourself. Guys, for your I would like to tell one thing is that all these questions I'm talking about US based company. Those people they will be working for the US company. So especially when you guys will go through different types of interview questions, especially one of the common and popular questions, tell me about yourself. I think I would say barely you will not get this question. So most of the like 99% interviewer, they must ask you this question, tell me about yourself. So I'm going to tell you one thing is that so tell me about yourself. Yourself. It doesn't mean that what you do in your life, like your family, all that. So tell me about yourself. Interviewer, they are trying to understand like your definitely you have to introduce yourself. Definitely you have to introduce your name, and then where you're located. Definitely they will ask you all this, but mostly what you did in your last project, what it is actually your roles and responsibilities, what kinds of technology that you have used so far. So basically these all about. So make sure that you always remember when you get these interview questions, especially this automation testing perspective. So you have to demonstrate like your technology, all that. So I'm going to give you some of the bullet points. So in my personally, what I always follow. So what I do that like whenever I face the interview, I already prepared a bullet points. So I do have a like a notes that I always go through that within a short time, because you will not get much time to till within 2 minutes. You should not take more than 2 minutes for this specific questions. So within 2 minutes, you should answer. You should demonstrate your past experience, current structure, all that. So I'm going to give you another slide, which is this is one of the excuse me, one of the that important things like these kinds of interview bullet points I always use. So in my office I always have this print out this bullet points, so I have to go from this from the beginning to until end within 2 minutes, so I can convince my interviewer that hey, I'm giving interview for this specific positions, which is Q automations or manual testing or functional testing positions, that I am the best candidate for these positions. So you have to prove that you are the one who is best positions for this position. You are the best candidate for these positions. So the first of all that I always go through like UI as your automation test engineer. So you guys know like automation is so high demanded in the industry, IT industry. Why? Because all of the IT company they want only one resources. So from the one resources, they don't want to hire multiple manual test engineer, and they will pay because this is if they can able to use only one automation resources instead of using three manual or two manual test engineer, they can save a lot money. And money is the number one things that always company or always organizations, IT organizations, they always consider to save. So for these automations test engineers, which is really quite high demanded in the US. So to give delivery best product or bug free product. So when I start talking about myself, I always go through this bullet point. I always go through this is the bullet points I've always prepared. Always follow. So the first question is about like UI automation testing tools. So once all the manual testings, let me give you some inner idea, inner activities that I do in my project, like. Once a manual tester or as a manual test engineer, when you complete your manual test cases, when you come up with your all the test cases, you might write your test cases into the Excel sheet. You might write test cases all into the Jira. which is for one of the project management tools. So after you're done, then you have to automate it all the steps that you manually validate, right? So I always go through that UI automations. Like this is the first one, that UI, which is user interface. So for the specifically to automated UI with user interface, that what kinds of tools you use. On the market, there are n number of automations tools is available, which is Selenium and also Playwright. So most commonly use Selenium. So Selenium, one of the popular UI automation tools that I used. So when I talk, I always say, okay, for the UI automation tools, I have used Selenium in my current project. I also used in my previous project Playwright. So I mentioned. So at least this is the tool's name when interviewer hear from my end, then yes, at least he understand, okay, interviewer understand, okay, I do have a knowledge about the tools with UI. And going to the next one, which is framework. What kinds of framework you use? What is framework? I'll give you more details descriptions when you're talking about exactly what is framework. So talking about like framework, what kinds of framework you used? So in my current project, I also use TestNG. TestNG, one of the built-in framework, quite popular framework that I used. So I also talk about in my recent project, I use TestNG with BDD Cucumber. So BDD, one of the features that also available into my framework. So when I mention BDD Cucumber, it means like I do have behavior driven development knowledge into my knowledge I have. Even I also implement this concept into my framework. So this kinds of information, so I'm telling to the interviewer definitely will be happy. And talking about automation scripting, what kinds of build I use to maintain automation script, which is one of the tools is popular, which is Maven. I use Maven project. I use Maven project for the TestNG framework. So when I mentioned like Maven project I use, so interviewer definitely will be happy. So now after complete all the writing, right, writing automations, all that executions, giving all that reports. So what I did to keep to continuously, which is CI/CD pipelines, which is one of the most commonly recommended asked by interviewer. Like, do you have knowledge with CI/CD pipelines or not? Yes, which is continuous integration or continuous full abbreviations, which is CI/CD is continuous integration and continuous development. So one of the popular tools, Jenkins. So did you use Jenkins? Yes, I also use the Jenkins in my framework. So what I did, I just link up my to remotely runs the code and sending the emailable reports, generate the sending the emailable reports. So I use Jenkins. And going to the next topics, which is API web services. So for API web services, what kinds of tools did you use? So far I have used Postman and SoapUI. So this is two of the popular tools that we use. Every tool has positive and negative side. So recently in my project, I'm using Hopscotch and Her, one of the kinds of old tool, but we also use. So my team and me, we decided to use Hopscotch and Her. This is one of the another type of tools that we can use. So you are telling to the interviewer, yes, look at this. I have also experienced API testing. So remember like interviewer, they want to see that they want that kinds of, they're looking for that kinds of resources, that kinds of candidate who has multiple technology skills. So the same resources they can use for automations, they can use for API, they can use our CI/CD pipelines, all that. So interviewer definitely will be happy when you have this skill set and when you mention this. And talking about like project management tools. So what is project management tools? Project management tools, whole project, whether it's manually or a whole team that organized, manage that, which is one of the popular tools is Jira, Atlas Asian Jira, and then CLM, HPLM, those kinds of stuff. If you have experience, you can mention that, yes, I do have experience. So now talking about what kinds of scripting language, programming language did you use in your framework? If you have experience with Java, definitely you can mention in Java, and if you have experience with Python, definitely you can mention Python, and since every number of languages is available. So make sure that you should one more thing is the tips I want to give you when you apply for the specific job, and you always try to find out what language they are looking for. If they are looking for a person that who is experienced in Java, then definitely you have to mention Java, and you should have experience with the Java language. And if they are looking for Python, and definitely you should have experience with the Python, and they are looking for Python experience who has experience with the Python. So you need to make sure that. And also you can also mention that one of the that IDE is integrated development environment. What environment did you use? You used to automate your scripting, which is a lot of tools is available on the market, which is Eclipse and PyCharm. And again, and talking about RDBS, which is Relational Database Management. So you can also mention that, hey, I also do have experience with database testing, which is data testing. So different types of database is available, which is Oracle, MySQL Server, MySQL Server, MySQL Server. So if you mention those kinds of stuff, then interviewer will be very happy because you do have experience with this. And coming to the version control. So once you complete everything, so you have to store, you have to control the all the code, which is source code, right? So version control, that what did you use? You can use, if you use Git, you can mention Git. If you use like GitHub, you can use GitHub. And if you use Bitbucket, any of them is available. So whatever you use into your project, you can mention. And one of the important thing is domain knowledge. This is really important. So you have to specify that what kinds of domain knowledge you have. Domain knowledge is all about like what kinds of applications. If it is like e-commerce applications, you have to mention I do have experience with the e-commerce website. I do have experience with healthcare website. I have experience with the insurance domain, because different domain, different acceptance criteria, different challenges, different environment. So if you have experience like at least mortgage or banking, and or also healthcare and also insurance domain, then that would be awesome. So definitely they will love that. And talking about methodology, so if you definitely, most of the nowadays, most of the organizations now, most of the IT industry, they always is Agile, because Agile quite popular. So it has a lot of advantage. So that's the reason people are using Agile. So if you mention like, hey, I also have experience with methodology like Agile, and also you can modify like waterfall. So yes, long time back, you are in your last project when you started your project, so that was a waterfall. If you want, you can mention waterfall. And the last point I want to mention is that different type of testing phase. So within 2 minutes, if you can specify like what kinds of experience you have, what kind of testing experience you have. Like mostly we usually do regression testing, we usually do sanity testing, we usually do functional testings. We do have different types of testing, monkey testing, all that. So if you mention that, then at least interviewer, they will have experience that these kinds of interview testing knowledge you have. So again, you have to remember that within 2 minutes you will not get much time to, you should not take I mean, you can get much time, but you should not use more than 2 minutes. So within 2 minutes you have to summarize your whole experience, current experience, previous experience, all that. So at least you can motivate the interviewer which side they are looking for, and which side you can motivate to the interviewer. Hey, I feel more comfortable, I do have more experience with this programming language, this environment, so that will be easier for them. So if you have any questions, any interview tips or comments, if you need, please feel free to ask me questions. I'll try my best to give you guys answer, especially US based company. And thank you again. If you like and if you think that this is really helpful, please don't forget to subscribe and like this my video. Thank you.